John Rawlings received an honorary degree. I think he received it in the company of two other personalities, Professor Anamwa Mensah, Jofus Anamwa Mensah, I believe, as well as General Abubakar. Is he Abubakar?
Is it Salam or something?
Salam, okay, a former president of the Republic of Nigeria, of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
State of Nigeria.
And he made some incisive statements yesterday. And following that also, he thought that government officials and leadership was showing some form of opulence, was not going with the tide and the times. They were not walking the talk. And I know the two of you will also comment on that. And following that also, yesterday an event was convened by Legacy and Legacy. Is managed by Albert and Comfort Okran, and they call it Festival of Ideas 2014. And the head pastor of ICGC, Reverend Dr. Mensa Otabil, Pastor Otabil, was there. And he was convinced Ghana's boat was sinking and needed measures that were intentional, divisive, or decisive, and also methodical in saving the sinking ship, and saying that, well, when it comes to critical times of a country, leadership was critical, and Rawlings and Otabil just seem to have hit everything right on the head, and just also juxtaposing this with our discussion this morning. What would you say, leadership and what the generation needs to do?
Yeah, you know, I listened to Rawlings this morning, and I listened to Otabil, but there's no gainsaying the fact that Rawlings has been someone who has fought corruption all these years. And I remember issues with corruption and indiscipline are his passion. He talks dispassionately about them, and so he has not minced words. Ever, even when he was a president during the revolution days, he has not minced words. When Kufuor was there, he lambasted Kufuor for corruption.
He's always lambasted.
Yes, and even Mills, when Mills was there too, he talked about corruption and indiscipline, and now he's talking about, this is not the first time he's particularly hitting the John-Mahama administration about corruption, opulence, and then the exuberance use of political power by appointees and so on. So I think for me personally, I'm someone who is passionate about, I don't like corruption. When you look at my background as an investigator for SHRAC for over 10 years, that I've dealt with corruption issues, and then the effects of corruption on people whose taxes were used to even send us to school, that we are able to sit here. Today we use just this pen to steal from the people. For we should be policing the people's purse. We have now turned to lord that power and the purse over the ordinary people. It is something that we have to talk about. And the president himself, John Dramani Mahama, time again has talked about corruption. He has made anti-corruption institutions and agencies in this country. He talked about it. Chiefs have talked. I think it has become an everyday mantra in this country that corruption has now even become so pervasive in our day-to-day lives. And you see, it becomes more damning when political appointees tend to be associated or alleged to be involved in themselves in corruption and so on. Rawlings, I remember very well that the time he used to be in power and talked about corruption, a lot of people didn't believe him. And at a point in time, he mentioned about the fact that he had not even got a personal account. And I remember when London MPP, your party, took over power, people like Kokubaku went abroad trying to see if Rawlings has stashed money somewhere, and they came back without no information and so on. So it is the right thing. Corruption is one of the major problems that is facing our economy. When you look at even the amount of money that goes through Tema Port alone, through private packers, that is only Tema. It is estimated that $50 million each month goes out into private packet. It's also estimated that is only Tema. We haven't gone to Takoradi Port, our airport. So that is only Tema.
I need to start working there from next month.
Who?
I need to start working there from next month.
Probably, if you want to condone corruption, want to be part of the people supposedly to be the looting brigade, you have to be part of it. But the issue has often been that we tie corruption more often to political appointees. But in all our facets of life, we condone corruption, and we even try to corrupt the political people who are honest. And the issue is this: look, in this country, honest people have been humiliated. People who stood against corruption, they've been sacked from their jobs and they are suffering as we talk now. Their wives are not getting, even society will call you names. When you're a political appointee and you go home without putting up a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom house, or even if you put up a 2-bedroom, they will insult you. They need to see bigger things. They need to see you riding luxurious cars before they target to be a successful politician or public servant. Rawlings' call is in order, and I think that if, the president will listen to him.
And water bill too, you didn't mention.
I'm not, water bill issues a major one. Let's deal with Rawlings' corruption and then pick them one after the other. I'll come to water bill.
Yeah, and if you look at what water bill said, and I know that your man Alan Tremantin has always been saying, and also exude that sort of a personality who is always, well, watching things before reacting and trying to take decisive steps before. Do you think that the current leadership of politicians perhaps also need to do a lot more rethinking and some level of introspection?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is fundamental with the position of leadership in any area. I mean, you are not rash. You don't just do things on the spur of the moment or on an inkling. Everything must be well, carefully considered before actions are taken, because you should appreciate, and you must in such a position appreciate, that every decision, every action that you take, even every word that you utter at various levels, have their major implications. So if you are responsible enough for that office and that position, you go about things in a particular way, and that is expected of that office. But let me quickly just make a quick point about the suggestion you made about wanting to go and work in the port. On the other hand, I think it will be a welcome thing, because taking you, Roland, and what I know about you, I know if you were to go and do some work in the port, you will be able to bring out things that will be very helpful to those who are complaining there are wastages in the system.
If they won't gank against him.
Well, I mean, I am not going to say these things about him because he's here.
No, I'm not.
But I'm saying, I would say that when he decides to take up that kind of challenge,
the larger picture.
When he decides, or anybody like him decides to take up that challenge, they know what they have to face. And I believe that knowing that challenge, they are ready to deal with it. And when they want to deal with it the way they are saying, it will be helpful to the rest of us. Now, on what Mr. Rawlings said,
as well as Otabil.
I think what Mr. Rawlings said, my brother has made reference to, which I quite agree. But what Pastor Otabil said, I didn't hear him say it, but I've heard the report of what he said. What seems to be explosive about it is when he says there should be a change in leadership. Yes, I think I agree. Leadership is what makes all the difference. At the end of the day, people have the same qualifications, same experiences, etc. What makes the difference is the leadership. The style in which that individual is going to implement what he wants to do. How he's going to be able to get people to come on board and put the same level of enthusiasm and energy and ensure that that goal or vision is achieved. That is leadership. So far, what we've seen from His Excellency Pres.Mahama has been a certain lacking of that kind of leadership that we expect. So therefore, I agree on that call for the change. So Pres.Mahama must, for the sake of Ghana, change his leadership. He must change the way he's going about things.
I believe that's what Otabil meant. He means tinkering.
Yes.
Okay.
That is what I believe Pastor Otabil was saying. We shouldn't have a situation where an ex-president, an opposition member, a pastor, or anybody, a journalist, is trying to draw the attention of His Excellency the President that your appointees are behaving in a manner that is unacceptable of their office. Things should be so addressed in such a way that it won't even occur in the first place. The kind of style, leadership that he brings on board, his appointees will not even behave that to start with, for somebody to even give. That is where the fundamental mistake comes. You see, so for you to be superintending this type of action, for people to be complaining to this extent, is a bad reflection. That is why it is essential that if he may not be aware, if he may not be seeing it, he may not have heard, he must definitely. In
your estimation, and actually for the two of you, I start with you, Philip, do you think in any way we seem to be getting it right as far as taking the right decisions, getting it head on, and trying to portray to those around us, whether the current generation or the generation to come, or those that also perhaps are behind and are learning, etc., that these are the traits and virtues that need to be imbibed, and as a result also need to be followed?
Yes, I think it is very, very important that we make that very clear, that when you are given a position of authority in leadership and you are taking decisions, there's a certain fundamental expectation from you. These things are well known in the corporate world. When you are known to work in a senior position in certain major brands, worldwide major brands, whether it's Coca-Cola, Nestle, and even our local companies, the Unilevers and the UT banks and all those places, there's a certain fundamental governance culture. The complaints that President Rawlings and others are making about President.Mahama's government will not occur in those areas. The systems are such that it will not, it won't even happen. You go into the place and you realize that certain behaviors, certain attitudes are fundamentally out of place with the environment in which you are working. So there's no place. But rather, what do we see in this country? Young people can come on public platforms like this one and insult people who have built names and reputations over years. People older than their parents. Insult them and talk to them. In certain, that alone is, you are sacked. You are sacked. But what do we see? People are being promoted and rewarded with very sensitive positions. You know, that is fundamental failure.
But points well made. And Philip, of course, is an aide to Alan Chiromati. And we know that Alan Chiromati is a political leader in Ghana. Of course, he's gunning for the flag bearer of the MPP. But you are also contesting a position, the deputy national organizer of your party. That's the NDC as well. Do you think that when we talk about change in leadership, it also should affect every facet of the political ladder and also the societal landscape? And do you think it will happen?
Yeah,
since we're also imbibing a certain characterization in young leaders.
I think it should affect all facets of life. Like Philip London has rightly put it and aptly said, look, President Rawlings talked about the fact that in times of these hardships, when the economy is having challenges, you don't need to exhibit opulence and arrogance and display of wealth and so on. You understand? And Pastor Mensalta will also talk about leadership style. It's just a matter of style. And if you're a leader, what legacy do you want to leave behind? So that when you are not there, like today, we are talking about a PV. What are the people going to remember you for? You can build all the castles for the people. If there's indiscipline in our society, people will not respect themselves. How come that we are in this society that we liberalize our airwaves, and yet, like he said, children, I call them children, they are on airwaves without respect and regard to whatever achievement you might have attained in your personal endeavor. They come in, and what comes out of their mouth is insults. From good morning, the rest is insult to that throughout the day.
But is it not because our politics are degenerated?
We endorse these things as politicians and so on. And we must sit up and we must ensure that this canker that is eating us up, even including even look at the way we let our environment about. Let's just go out and someone takes ice, after taking ice, he throws it and tells the fellow to pay. He turns around and insults you. I was on one of the highways and a taxi driver wanted to make U-turn. I told the taxi driver, if you make the U-turn, I'll let the police arrest him. He told me that if you make the U-turn, I should go and tell the police to arrest him. Now, sometimes when we just oppose this with what the army is doing, sometimes I feel that we should blend our democratic rule with the military discipline. Let me come. Look, let me cite just one example. I went to Tamale. My family stays in Tamale. We were driving to the airport. When we were getting to the airport, the military, they were standing there. I saw a lot of cars parked. They just did like this and stopped. My wife was driving. They stopped her. Then they told us that the speed limit was supposed to be about 30. We were going around 50 there about. And they were having their receipts. And that we pay or they hand it over to the police, they don't prosecute. Now, when you look at the attitude of the army man, you even dare bribing or going near him to talk to him. You won't. It will not.
So you're saying that you're saying that the discipline.
The discipline
is what we need in our society.
Need
not that we
discipline.
need them to come and.
No. Look,
okay,
I would rather wish that even on our roads, it is the army mounted this thing. Let me tell you, look at what is Accra.
In our constitution, it's not allowed.
Yes.
And I don't think that you advocate
my
an
brother,
amendment to that.
No. Accra, there's no traffic in Accra. What is happening is indiscipline.
Okay.
There's no traffic. How many cars are in Accra? Every facet of political life, our cultural life, even traditional lives and so on, we have completely messed ourselves up as a
And talking about what we need to take as far as